Okay, so to pick up where I stopped last time is we're going to talk about breakpoints. So before we actually dive into that, we're going to have to make some example code to actually demonstrate these breakpoints. So we're just going to define two functions, one for checking for a prime number, and the other one to actually find all the prime numbers up to a certain point utilizing this first function to check if it's a prime number. So so first we're going to just make a for loop x in range. So 2 and double slash to integer division, just to force integer division. All right, so if not n x, let's indent this one more to make it look better. Okay. So return false, and then return true. All right, so here with just a simple prime function, where we just check for prime numbers. So we're checking in this range if this doesn't check out. So you know what a prime number is. So it just checks if this condition doesn't check out, then we don't have a prime number. But anyway, moving on. That's not the main goal of this tutorial today. This is just an example to be used for debugging. So for x in range of 2 to n, we're going to have if is prime x, and we're going to print that number x. All right, and that's it. So we're going to have primes to 50. Let's check if this works. Here we go. There we go. That works. Okay, so our program checks out. Now we're going to run the debugger through the command prompt, through the terminal. Oops. I was doing some error checking. Anyway, moving on. All right, so let's do this. So we're going to change the directory again like we did before. And then we're going to debugging. So we're going to do python -m pdb, and then we're going to do test.py. So, okay, now we run our debugger. So now let's actually, get into the actual command. So now that we run our debugger, we are going to create a breakpoint. So a breakpoint is created in the following way. So we have the command break followed by the line number. This creates a breakpoint at line 11 in our script, in our code. Alternatively, we can also say break and define a breakpoint using a function's name instead of a line number. So we're going to use break is prime, and we create another breakpoint. So in the debugger, we can also specify the command. We can also have a command for listing the code, and certain lines block of code in our program. So here by using L, starting line and comma ending line. So in this case L1 to 13, we showed a certain block of code. And if you notice, we have the letter B that defines where our breakpoints are. So when working with breakpoints, we continue the execution with the command continue. The debugger itself stops at breakpoints. So if we type continue, we see that the program continues the execution until the function isPrime is called because we put the breakpoint there. Continue. And as you can see, it went down to is prime. So let's check our lines. As you can see, it goes to this breakpoint now. And to see all of our breakpoints in our program, we can type in break without any line numbers, just simply break. And you can see it shows breakpoints. And after the command we just saw, we see that the breakpoints, aside from the line numbers, also have additional attributes. One is enable, so ENB, that's one right here. What we have here, we can turn it off. So what we can do with that actually is that we can turn off the breakpoints temporarily if we don't need them. We do so with the command disable, followed by the number of the breakpoint. So let's do disable and breakpoint 1. So we're disabling breakpoint 1. So we're going to type in continue now. And we see that debugger didn't stop at line 11. It stopped at line 2, or rather it stopped, where did it stop here? So, but anyway, it stopped, it didn't go, so let's start again. So breakpoint, okay, so we have a breakpoint now. So now we're gonna do disable. So here we can see that it was disabled. So we're gonna type continue. And it went to, here we go, it went to the next line after that, line 2 after the breakpoint. So that after that breakpoint, it went to that line. Anyway, so excuse me for my kind of stall right there. So if you want to enable it again, you just go enable 1, and there you go, it's enabled again. And aside from our regular breakpoints, we can also specify temporary breakpoints, which are deleted once we stop on them. For example, we write it like T break, that's temporary breakpoint, at line 4. So it says breakpoint 3 at line 4. So now we have a temporary breakpoint. Now let's list all the breakpoints. Here we have all our breakpoints now. And then we're going to type continue. And it stopped there. And then we're going to type it again. Whoops, I wrote. There we go. And let's write break. I kind of messed up today. Breakpoint, as you can see, once we stopped at that line 4, and we typed in break again, the breakpoint is deleted. And so we just checked it. And now it is also important to mention that there are also conditional breakpoints. That is a point in which the debugger stops if the condition is satisfied. We specify them by adding a conditional statement as follows. So we're going to say break for n 3. So after this, so now that was added. So let's check break again to see if that was added. So here you can see stop only if n is greater than 3. So let's write continue a couple times. So as you can see, it displays 3. So it stopped when we had n equals 3. And the following is the equivalent. So we have condition for, we change the condition now. You can just use the command condition n equals 5, for example. So it says new condition set to breakpoint 4. So let's do break again, and it's defined there. So let's write continue. And there you go, you get a 5 now, which is a prime number. So, because I already did 3. So, moving on. If you want to delete a breakpoint, you can just use the command clear and do 4. And there you go, deleted breakpoint 4. So, and then there won't be a breakpoint there any longer. So another useful command we have is ignore. Type like, not ignore, which type like that. So the syntax, it ignores a certain breakpoint a specified number of times. So if we have ignore on line 2, on breakpoint 2, the number of times ignores. So we have ignores for the breakpoint number and the number of ignores to do it. So let's do that. And it says now we'll ignore next 2 crossings in breakpoint 2. So if we write continue a couple of times, we'll see how it behaves. So continue, continue, and continue again. And it actually printed out the result after that. So anyway, moving on. So you can see it ignored it a couple times, and it ran the program a little. Now it's also possible to define simple scripts that are executed by breakpoints when the debugger comes to that point. So the syntax is commands and the breakpoint number, in this case 2. The console will appear with the prefix com, and that's where we type in our script. So we're going to write commands 2, and then here's com. Now we're going to type in some sort of script to include when you get to this breakpoint. So we're going to say n equals, we're just going to print out a script, it's a line. So we're going to say print out, give me n. And then end is used to end this input. So now when we do continue a couple times, it gives you what the current result of n is in the debugger. So let's do that. Continue again. And you get n plus 9 and so on. So now it gives you this, it displays n in a comprehensive way, and that's it from that part. So up until this point, we have learned all that we need to know for analyzing our code. We will mention one more command which might be useful. However, if you're not certain how your code will work, then this is not recommended. This command is jump, written like that, followed by a line number. Let's say 6. It continues the execution from that line and skips other lines. You should be especially careful when skipping the blocks that are necessary for the execution. For example, the finally block in a try, catch, or skipping a function when arguments are not passed. So let's demonstrate this. So currently, let's type in jump 16. As you can see, it can't skip to the beginning of the block. So let's do run again, restart from the beginning, and let's do jump 6. And it jumped to return false. Because it skipped, let's go back up, see if we can find that code. So it skipped all the way to this line, to number 6. And it bypassed all this. So that's the function of jump. If you notice, it skipped a lot of the essential part of the program, so that's just demonstrating how it might be risky to use, but it's all up to your discretion. And so that's pretty much it from this this part of the course, and that concludes this chapter on debugging.